Why did you wait until the 15th property to buy your own house?
So when I was first building my portfolio, I did a lot of the whole rent vesting thing, and obviously even before then, I stayed at home as long as I could to save up multiple deposits. But I guess why I bought my first place to live in was I think it was like 14th to 15th property. It was basically because I wanted to build a property portfolio to, long story short, create wealth, reach that financial freedom, build a passive income. And I realized that if I bought the place, and even in the beginning, like I couldn't afford to buy a place to live in as my first property. And a lot of, as an example, the first property I bought when I was 18, I had a very low borrowing capacity. Like I was working at McDonald's. So my borrowing capacity was very minimal. So even a house that I wanted to live in back then might have been like 500,000-600,000. This is like 10 years ago. And I could only borrow 200 at the time. So it just wasn't feasible at the time to buy a place to live in first. So I used my first investment property as a stepping stone, and then one led to two. And then I realized that you could obviously make money through buying property, and I got passive income from it. I built a property portfolio, and all those properties that I bought for as little as 200, 300, 400,000, they gave me the equity to then take equity from those properties and then buy a bigger place to live in. So the first property I ever bought to live in, which was like a few years ago, was pretty cheap in the grand scheme of things. It was in Sydney. It was about 740,000. I did a 10% deposit on that, so it was about $70,000. I pulled equity from other properties to do that, and like that was only a few years ago, and that same property is worth like 1.3, so it's almost doubled in like 2 years. But I just bought it very, very well, and I don't live in that property anymore. We upgraded a few years later. But I think it's very important. For the first property that you buy doesn't have to be the one that you live in. You can start off small and just buy an investment property first and use it to get your foot in the door, and then use equity from that property to buy another one, and just repeat the process again and again until you have such a big asset base that you have 2, 3, 4, 5 million in property, then you can really buy your dream house. Let's say someone's young and they've got a pre-approval for 600,000-700,000. Realistically, it doesn't buy you much in Sydney or Melbourne anyway, so it's not going to be the property that you want to stay in forever. Sooner or later, you're going to want to move. So it makes sense to obviously just buy something, get your foot in the door, and that way you're on the property market and you've got equity coming in. The earlier you do that, the better off you're going to be long term.